Do you think women are equal in the United States?
No, it's not.
I do, yes. I know a lot of women who feel equal.
No.
No.
No, it's not equal. It's not close.
Oh boy, you can just tell that this one's going to be a shit show, can't you? Welcome back to another one of these response videos. I've not made one of these in a while, so please just sit back, relax, light up a good old cigar, and prepare to face palm as I go through this video.
So all of this talk about ratifying equal rights pretty much narrows down to one thing: the Equal Rights Amendment. It's an amendment to the Constitution that was first introduced in 1923 by Alice Paul, shortly after women got the right to vote. It called for women's equality, stating that equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex.
You do realise that this is not a plea for women's rights. This is a plea for equality of the sexes, which any reasonable human being is for. But you're making out as though women are going to get a really great deal out of this. You'd probably be pretty disappointed if this thing was to pass, because, you know, women would actually lose a bunch of rights. Women already have more rights than men in the Western world and in America. I've made a video previously detailing 12 of these rights that women have over men. Now, if this bill was to pass, women would lose all those rights. There are so many things that would happen. For example, the women being forced to register for the draft. Women not always being presumed caregivers for children. Lots of things like this. If you're really interested in hearing the full list, then go check out my other video on my channel.
So women are already equal.
Well, that's a complex question.
Oh god, you can just tell where this is gonna go. They're just like stereotypical feminists trying to fight for women's rights, and oh, I'm excited to hear what this fucking argument's gonna be. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be a very good one.
Are women equal in the eyes of the law? No.
I mean, I suppose you're correct, because in the eyes of the law, they're actually pretty superior in various areas.
Are women equal inherently? Yes.
To claim that women are equal inherently, you're saying that men and women are equal in every single way. Well, that's just not the case. Men, 99% of the time, are stronger. Men are physically just more intimidating specimens. And it's to do with things such as testosterone in their bodies. It's to do with bone structure, the balances in the chemicals in their brains. Men and women are not created the same. Yes, we deserve equal rights, but we are not inherently equal beings.
Our research would show that most people think that we're already guaranteed equal rights, actually 80% of people, when they're made aware that we're not.
Guaranteed equal rights? What does that even mean? Like, are there any rights you don't have? Can you name a single right that women don't have that men do? I mean, I don't think you can.
What are some examples of how women aren't equal?
Well, there's the legal things like pay.
I am honestly getting sick to death of having to argue against this point. The pay gap has been debunked so many times. It's a meme at this point. It's a fucking joke. Yet people are still repeating it. People are still believing it. It's a mainstream idea. World leaders repeat it. I really, how many times can I debunk these things? I must have debunked this myth about 5 times in 5 different videos. This is getting ridiculous.
And the level of legal scrutiny when they go into courts with a gender discrimination case.
Workplace discrimination, pregnancy discrimination in the workplace, domestic abuse and violence, where women just don't have the same legal recourse.
I'm going to start by addressing that domestic violence thing. And I mean, how can you complain about the support women receive in domestic violence cases when the support for men is far, far, far worse? You cannot complain about equality for women in that regard when men have it far, far worse. People laugh at men, say you can't be abused and all this other stuff. They can't get shelters. They don't have the same resources available to them when they're victims of domestic abuse. So don't you even... You can't bring that up. You're ridiculous. How dare you? And as for the rest of what you were saying, I mean, Can you name a single right that you're missing out on? Discrimination, everyone gets discriminated against. Discrimination just means treating someone differently because of their sex. Sure, if your boss passes up you getting a promotion over and gives it to a man simply because you're a woman, then you were discriminated against in the workplace. But maybe that wasn't the reason. Maybe the man was just better suited for that promotion than you were. What are you talking about? Pregnancy discrimination. If an employer knows that a woman's pregnant and there's a promotion coming up and there's an equally suited man, say they're both on equal footings, they're both just as good for this promotion, but the woman's pregnant, of course he's going to give it to the man. That isn't discrimination, it's common business sense. No one's going to give the promotion to a woman who's then just going to leave because she is pregnant.
Couldn't help but notice that we were all white women.
And here comes the self-degradation.
Is this like the early feminism of 1923, an amendment that only works for white women while ignoring women of color?
Can you please explain? I would genuinely love it if you could explain to me how any sort of feminism, me not being a feminist, not in favor of feminism, I want to know how can feminism be for white women but not for women of color? I hate using that term, but I'll go with it. Women of color. Feminism has nothing to do with race. This act you want to pass, this amendment, has nothing to do with race. It is about sex. Where are you bringing women of color into this? What do white women versus women of color have to do with anything? This is preposterous. I don't understand how you people look at some sort of mathematic problem and it says 2 plus 2, and instead of saying it's 4, you jump to 20. Like, what? I'm flabbergasted. Please, someone explain that to me.
I wanted to find someone who'd be able to answer this, so I got in touch with Carol Jenkins, an Emmy-winning journalist and a founding president of the Women's Media Center.
Well, you could have just got in touch with me instead, and I would have given you a much shorter and much better answer.
Women of color need it more desperately than anyone else, quite frankly, to make sure that those numbers in pay differences and in access to education and employment, women are still discriminated against because of the color of their skin. So, I would say that this ERA, what we're fighting for now, includes everyone. It includes people of different faiths and disability, of sexual orientations. That we're working for the inclusion of everyone in America.
Again, back to the point I was just making. What this ERA thing is about sex. It is about equality between men and women. Where does race come into it? Where does disabilities come into it? Where does sexual orientation come in? These things have nothing to do with the subject at hand. You're making it about these subjects. You're making it about things that it's not about. And you're acting as if you're some sort of godsend, saying, we'll get this passed, and finally there will be equality for all of these people. Finally we'll stop burning fags at the cross. Finally people with disabilities will be able to get wheelchairs without being pushed into rivers. Like, what are you talking about? These people are already included. Yes, there are bigots out there who don't like these people. Yes, there is discrimination that happens. But you're acting as if this is some sort of huge civil rights movement and the black man still has to stand on the bus. This is nothing like that, and you're making it into something that it really, really isn't.
So it turns out that women aren't totally free under US law, and that women of color are affected by this the most. In fact, there's a ton of bills introduced every year that attempt to limit the freedom that women have over their bodies. In 2017, the House passed the American Health Care Act, which ended Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood. In 2011, there were 92 provisions across 24 states that aimed to restrict abortion access.
I would like to start off by saying that I am actually pro-choice. I think that women should be allowed to have abortions, but the problem is, people such as yourself, you discredit your own argument. You see, when you start talking about it, you make it into something that it's not. You represent the argument as an argument about women's rights. It's not an argument about women's rights. You represent the opposing argument, the often conservative argument, the often Republican argument, the pro-life argument. You represent it as if these people want to take rights away from women. But that's not what they want at all. It's nothing to do with taking rights away from women. These people do not see abortion as a woman's right. They see abortion as murder. That's what it's about. It's about they think it's murder. You don't think it's murder. But you shy away from confronting the fact that they think it's murder, and instead you make it into a women's rights issue. And when you do that, it really annoys me, because it's just not what the argument is. It's not about women's rights. That is not what you're arguing about. Yes, I suppose it is. It is a women's right. It's a right that women want. It's a right I think they should have. But it is also not anything to do with equality, because men can't have abortions. So yes, maybe it is a right that women should have, but the argument between pro-life and pro-choice is not one of women's rights. That is not what the argument is. And right here, I don't know why you're even bringing up abortion, because it has no footing. There is no footing for this in the equal rights debate.
In July of 2016, the House Appropriations Committee passed a bill that eliminated funding for family planning services, which included things like breast exams, birth control, and Pap tests.
Women are not the only people who benefit from family planning services. So maybe that was a newsflash to you. Maybe you genuinely did not know. Maybe I've just enlightened you. But it's not just women who benefit from family planning services. So that's... why are you bringing this up in an equal rights video about equal... I don't understand why you bring up all this nonsensical, irrelevant stuff. Okay, that's a thing, it's a fact, but it has nothing to do with your argument.
The government continuously introduces and passes legislation that attempts to limit women's bodily autonomy.
Back to this again. You phrase it in a way that makes it seem as though the government is purposely just trying to take rights away from women. That is not what they're trying to do. Yes, their legislation, the way they pass it, it does limit what you can do with your body, and I don't agree with it. But the way you phrase it is as if that is their aim. You act as if they want to take my rights away, and they just want to take them away because they don't think women should be equal. That's how you're coming across.
I do everything I can to make sure that we have equal pay for equal work.
Oh, I'm so done with this. I'm stopping here. You know what? Pause the video. Look at this image I've just put on screen right now. The Equal Pay Act of 1963. If you think that equal pay for equal work is not a thing, then please just read that. Until next time, I'm Rag Reynolds, and you're welcome, society.